The content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your doctor or other qualified health professionals with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast.
Welcome to Season 2 of Life on the Level, a podcast brought to you by two young Aussies living with type 1 diabetes, Isabella McGee and Sebastian Harris. Joined by special guests, it's real stories from people who get it.
Hello and welcome back to Life on the Level. I am Isabella.
And I'm Sebastian. Today we are thrilled to have Lauren, who's an absolute powerhouse in the diabetes community, who's here to share with us how diabetes can be more than just a challenge. It can actually be a superpower. So welcome to the podcast, Lauren.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
We are so excited to have you on the show. And to kick things off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey with type 1?
Yeah, so I've had type 1 for 6 years. It feels much longer than that. And it's also been a really big part of my life for as long as I can remember because my mum also lives with type 1 diabetes.
Oh, okay.
So I can't actually remember how old I was when I found out that she had type 1 diabetes, but I remember that day very vividly. And it certainly changed things a bit, kind of grew up quite quickly then, became quite heavily involved in I would quickly detect when she was having a hypo, was helping with managing the hypos and stuff like that. Yes, it's always been a big part of my life. I've always been very passionate about diabetes and helping people living with diabetes. Didn't expect myself to become one of those people, but here we are.
You never expect it, do you?
Yeah, I was looking out for the symptoms in my kid, because I had Blake who was 2 at the time. And so I was always looking out for symptoms in him rather than I wasn't expecting it to be me. So I was very much in denial leading up to my diagnosis. Yes, as I've just kind of touched on, I'm a mum of 2 kids. I had my son before my diagnosis and then I had my daughter after I was diagnosed. So that was 2 very different pregnancy experiences.
Do you feel like because you were diagnosed, but your mum had it while you were growing up, do you think that made it easier for you, more difficult? Did that impact the way that you dealt with it in any way?
Yeah, a bit of both. It definitely made it easier because I think there was a bit of a sense of relief that I didn't have to educate my family or anyone around what diabetes was.
Yeah.
How we manage it, what it means for my life. But it was equally terrifying because I knew exactly how tricky and how dangerous it could get living with diabetes. And yeah. I knew what those hypos were like. Had some many terrible experiences with hypos over the years with my mum, not blaming her, but just saying that we've dealt with plenty of crappy hypo situations over the years. So that was very scary. Thankfully, it was at a time where my mum had just started using CGM, she just started using the Libre system. So that was definitely helping. And then I got straight onto that as well because I didn't even leave the hospital before my dad brought some in for me. Bless him. I think it helped, but it was also scary as well, knowing full well what it was like.
Because I think you never really, at least in my case, was having someone in my family that was diagnosed before I was. You never have that true understanding of diabetes until you're actually diagnosed with it yourself.
Yeah.
And it's one of those really tricky things. And do you think that you found that you became closer with your mum because you both had diabetes? How's that to manage with both of you having it?
Yeah, I think you're right. As much as living with someone with diabetes, I had a pretty good understanding of what it was going to be like. It absolutely doesn't prepare you for actually living with diabetes. And everyone's different. And we know that every day with diabetes is different. And I think it definitely made me appreciate and give more patience around the hypos and things like that. That full appreciation of it's not her fault that these hypos are happening. It really opened up my eyes to that quite a bit. And because I really sought out community and education and upskilling myself as much as I could. After I was diagnosed, I engaged with a lot of community events and educational workshops and stuff like that. So I took Mum along as well. And so that was really good to be able to open up her world to those things as well. Like, she didn't know that they existed, whereas it's just, community is one of my values, and I just really wanted to go out there and, I guess, find out as much as I could and be as prepared as I could be. So it was nice to be able to take her along. And yeah, definitely we've always been really close, but I think it's probably brought us that little bit closer as well.
Yeah. Were there any like situations that you then looked back on after you were diagnosed and sort of you could see it from another view and went, oh, I understand now, Mum, I understand why that happened, or that you were frustrated about before diagnosis? Or
I used to be so frustrated by her hypos, which I'm like ashamed to say that I used to be so frustrated by them. But now I just have a whole new appreciation for, it's absolutely not her fault. It's not anything that she's done wrong. Not that I think I ever really thought that, but just it really does give you that appreciation for how hard life is with diabetes, and managing it every day, and like doing it with kids, because I have a sister as well, so she's doing it with 2 kids. And I remember having a conversation with my auntie one day, she's not actually my auntie, she's my mum's best friend, but she said that diabetes got harder and the management got harder for her after having the kids, which I can totally appreciate, being a mum myself. I really feel awful that I used to get so frustrated by the hypos and that, but yeah, totally new appreciation for it, and can definitely understand why some things happened now.
Yeah.
Having walked a little bit in her shoes, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think you should feel awful because you didn't get it. And I don't think people do get it until they experience it, you know, and that's what we're saying. You don't get it until you do literally do it yourself. And it's hard for people to understand the full reality of it until they're in that position. Thank God if they're not. But And you've called diabetes your superpower, which is quite a refreshing way to look at it. How has that sort of come about, and how has diabetes changed the way you live your life?
Yeah, it's changed my life in so many positive ways. The biggest one would be my career change. I work in a job now that I absolutely love. I feel like it's not work. Like, it's just, I love it so much. I work with the best bunch of people. I get to give back to the community so much. I experience things that I never would have dreamed of experiencing. And yeah, it's been amazing. Like, it's also, I think I touched on this before, it's exposed me to the diabetes community and the services that my mum wasn't otherwise aware of. So when I discovered that they existed, I took Mum along with me. And I remember we left an event one night, it was about diabetes and exercise, and she kind of turned to me and said, like, where were these people, like, back in my day? I was like, oh, like, I don't know if they were around or maybe they weren't, but at the end of the day, like, she was now accessing that information and being able to learn about it and able to try new things because she had these resources and tips and strategies to try. And so, yeah, it sucks that she hadn't been able to access it sooner. For whatever reason, but at least she was able to access it now. And also, kind of on that same note, I found my amazing credentialed diabetes educator, who I also got my mum onto. And Mum had previously never really seen a diabetes educator. She always just saw her endocrinologist. I think she saw a diabetes educator when she'd have to go to the hospital to get a pump upgrade, but that was about it. But now Mum sees her every 3 months, and I'm sure that she won't mind me saying this, but she has so many less hypos. She's got access to more updated tech. She was using a pump that was ancient prior to seeing the CDE that we see. And diabetes is hard, but with the support of our CDE, she makes it so much easier. And to have someone so non-judgmental and helpful just on your team, as you would know, it makes a huge difference having a healthcare professional and a team that is on your side, is there to help, is not judging you. And to know that my mum has that now too is the best. So I guess one of the biggest silver linings to my own diagnosis was being able to show Mum all the stuff that's out there that she didn't otherwise know about.
Yeah, and I think there's such an amazing way to put it, particularly in your case. And I think it's for a lot of people with diabetes. Although the diagnosis is often painful and trying to get used to it is really awful, the amount of things that I have seen people with diabetes do and change their life and stuff like that, like making people more aware of it or going into a field where they can help others. I think it's such an important thing to keep that central thought in your head of like, although I do have this thing and it is horrible, look at what I can do because I have it.
And how you can spin your life. And
it's just that mindset.
Yeah,
just that mindset change.
Definitely. And I guess that would have also been frustrating for your mum, you know, to then see that there were all these options out there that she hadn't been accessing beforehand, which is annoying. And I think that's why a lot of us do go into this space. A lot of us go in going, I want to know more. I want to help other people. I want to help more people like myself, not go through the struggles that I have been through.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've mentioned peer support a couple of times, and it is so important. I think that your group and whoever's around you are your support team. Even in this podcast could be a form of peer support. So what, I guess, does peer support mean to you, and how has it made an impact on your journey personally?
Yeah, peer support's huge, right? Like I don't think a day goes by where I'm not engaging in some sort of peer support. Like I work with a lot of people who also live with diabetes, so it's definitely easy for me to access it. It's always there. But that's also the beauty of peer support. Like no matter what kind of form you find it in, it is always there and it is always available. Like we don't always have access to our healthcare team or like our CDE, stuff like that. And I feel like sometimes they don't have the answers that we need, but our peers often will, or they can direct us in the right direction. Like there's Facebook groups, there's obviously this podcast, there's other podcasts, there's educational workshops and community events and stuff that people can go to and meet other people who live with diabetes as well. And I think peer support for me, one of the biggest highlights is during my second pregnancy, which was my first pregnancy with type 1 diabetes, I was in a group on Facebook that's all about supporting women and mums who are pregnant, trying to get pregnant, or had their babies. And so that was a really big part of my life at that time. I learned so much from that group. And importantly, it gave me the confidence to advocate for myself and my baby when things were going a bit pear-shaped at the end. Like I don't know what would have happened had I not had the support and knowledge from that group. Yeah, definitely credit to that group for helping me during a very tumultuous pregnancy. Yeah, things definitely went a bit pear-shaped at the end, and I had to advocate to get the access to the healthcare team that I needed and to get things moving along as we needed to. So, yeah, without, I don't know, just people sharing their stories, the knowledge and experiences that people had, I would have been lost without that group during that pregnancy, especially given it was only a couple of years after my diagnosis as well. So, yeah, that group was huge.
What did you find different between, because you experienced pregnancy with and without type 1, what were the differences for you, and what did you find was more difficult having type 1?
Everything.
Living?
Yeah. It was, I think it's because the target ranges for when you're pregnant are quite tight, and you're monitored so closely by your healthcare team during pregnancy. And because we have amazing technology like CGM, there's literally like only the 2-hour warm-up period every 10 days where you're not being judged for what your numbers are. Like they can see everything. And while they were wonderful, it was just hard knowing that every minute of every day, like my levels were being monitored and watched. And I knew why they had to be, totally appreciated that. But it was just, yeah, it was hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more appointments. There was more scans, which was fun because I got to see the baby more. And more stressful because just, you know, it's I think it automatically becomes a high risk pregnancy. But yeah, kudos to that group.
And one of the things that obviously you're talking about with peer support is understanding how important it is. And I know that there's this kind of thought about diabetes is an individual disease. And while that may be true for those of us that live with it, the importance of having people around you, even if they don't have diabetes, is so crucial. And I think there's a bit of a stigma surrounding it because I think people aren't willing to reach out for help. So how important is it for you, in your case, that you did reach out for help? And how do you go about breaking down the stigma surrounding peer support and stuff like that?
Yeah, the stigma with diabetes is huge, isn't it? From a personal perspective, I try to be quite open and honest about the literal highs and lows of living with diabetes, but it can be a tricky one to balance with also trying not to be too negative about it. But I always say, like, when I'm sharing something on my socials or something, that I'm not sharing for sympathy. I'm trying to just raise awareness of what it's like to be living with diabetes, but also then I try not to do it too much because I could share all day, every day. And like it's draining living with diabetes. The mental burden of diabetes is huge and no one gets that like someone else living with diabetes does. So it can be hard to share with people who aren't living with diabetes and kind of have them appreciate it and get it without being too like negative Nancy about it all. But yeah, I think it's important to share that stuff because I think the awareness and the education potential from that is really key around breaking down some of the stigma associated with diabetes. From a personal perspective, I will always quite happily politely correct any misinformation that I hear, but this can also be incredibly draining, especially if it's something that's spotted on social media. So like particularly social media, like I'll pick my battles. I won't always go and like correct some misinformation or something that I hear because like you need a break from it sometimes. Like you can't always be doing that. And I think if we were to go along and try and correct every poor joke that we heard or misinformation that we heard, we'd be doing it all day, and it's we don't have time for that. And people need a break from doing that as well.
I think for me, it's like sometimes learning when to switch off and when to just not reply. You know, you see stuff on Facebook groups and whatever, and you go, oh my gosh, that's not correct, or that's not what you should be doing, and you just need to take 5 seconds and go, is this worth the mental energy that I am thinking about putting into it? And usually the answer is no.
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, we have like national organisations and places and clinics and stuff that will like kind of do that awareness raising education for us. But yeah, you're right. Like just sometimes it's just not worth the mental energy. Yeah, just too much. As for the work side of things, as I kind of just touched on then with stigma, I'd say that I'm a bit more ruthless with tackling stigma, probably because I have the backing of my workplace and my colleagues. And
you're in a workplace,
PDC,
that has diabetes. They know diabetes. They understand what diabetes is where you work.
Yeah, so it's a private diabetes community clinic. So we live and breathe diabetes at PDC. So I can be, and I wouldn't say like I'm encouraged to be more ruthless, but if I want to be, they will support me. Because and like that's not just my values that I'm projecting when I'm trying to like tackle stigma from a work perspective. It's PDC's values. Like we don't stand for stigma, and we're here to try and break down the stigma between type 1 and type 2, and especially type 2 because we find that's highly prevalent as well. So yeah, definitely hit it a bit harder from a work perspective. And I'm deeply passionate about supporting all people with all types of diabetes. And a big focus for me at the moment is pushing for diabetes tech equity for all people living with all diabetes. So this naturally involves a lot of trying to break down stigma because like the public perception of type 2 diabetes I find is pretty poor. So I will keep advocating and educating around this for as long as I need to ensure that everyone gets the support and the access to tech that they need. And I think that, like it all comes down to awareness and education, which is a key part of my work, whether it's through the community event, social media, stakeholder engagement, wherever I have the opportunity to challenge misconceptions about diabetes through education and awareness, I will. And I think that maybe because I'm reflecting on it now as I say this, I think maybe because I do it so much through work, I probably do it a little less from a personal perspective or I just don't have so much mental energy for it from a personal perspective.
That makes sense, though. You know,
Yeah.
as a journo, I read less because I was reading more news all the time. You know, you don't want to read in your spare time because you're working, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So that does make sense.
Yeah.
I was less likely to bother when you.
I'm glad that makes sense.
No,
it
it did. Yeah, it did make sense. Yeah, and I think another thing is, you know, people saying like trying to break the stigma down of type 1, for example, is what I would be doing, and then people go, but what about type 2? What about the other types? And I'm not ever trying to disregard the other types. And I think that's another thing. It's like I'm never comparing. I'm never saying mine is worse or better or whatever. Yeah. It just is, and it's the one that my little area that I'm trying to focus on. I can only do so much.
Yeah.
You know, and that's another bit that you're just like, whatever. Like, okay, yeah.
And one of the things, Lauren, that I know you like talking about is that diabetes isn't all doom and gloom. Like, there is some positives that come with it. So can you tell us a little bit about this message of hope that you like to give people?
I guess you could say I'm very passionate about sharing the idea that diabetes doesn't have to stop anyone from achieving their goals or leading a fulfilling life. Like we touched on this earlier, like diabetes, it's got some huge silver linings and it doesn't stop anyone from doing anything. It's part of our life, it's a big part, but it's not the whole story, and it really doesn't need to hold us back or stop us from doing anything. Like people do amazing stuff with diabetes, and I think sometimes it's because they have diabetes that they do this stuff. Like I know someone who's ridden across Australia to raise funds for a diabetes charity, and I don't know that he would have done that had he not been living with diabetes himself and experienced what life is like with diabetes himself. And people they run marathons. I personally
doing it
don't.
out of spite. Remember, no, you sound like me, Lauren. I'm personally not going to run out of spite, but you know, people doing marathons out of spite because they have diabetes, and they're like, no, I will be able to do this, and I think that's so cool.
That's what it's like. We wouldn't be where we are today had it not been the case for a lot of people with diabetes. Like Isabel and I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be working in a private clinic. Like there's so many people that wouldn't do things.
We never would have met.
No.
Well,
don't know if that's
I don't know.
positive.
I knew I was going to beat you to it.
No. But for those listening in, what would be your one piece of advice that you could give them, or that one hope before we finish up?
I guess my advice would be find your tribe and don't settle for a team that doesn't suit you. If you the CDE that I see now isn't the CDE that I started seeing when I was diagnosed. And so if you don't feel empowered and listen to after an appointment with your healthcare team, it's time for a new team. You don't need any negativity. You don't need any judgment in your life. Diabetes is hard enough. Find people that you gel with and that get you and listen to you. And peer support, it's so powerful. Make use of it. It comes in so many shapes and forms. And again, because it comes in so many shapes and forms, find the right kind of peer support that suits you, because there's lots of options out there. So if you meet a group or you meet some people who they might have diabetes, yes, so that's a big tip. But if you just don't gel with them, or the values don't align, or whatever it is, there's plenty of other options out there.
I think that is a really
I guess it just comes down to find your tribe.
Yeah, because a lot of people just sort of go, this is my health professional team, this is what I'm with, this is what I've got, and they just sort of deal with that. But you can...
Yeah, there's actually so many options out there. So,
yeah.
And even if people, if finances are a thing, and so they might be going, through the public system for whatever reason, whether it's finances or not, for their healthcare team, they could choose to maybe, see, I don't know, 50% of their healthcare team publicly, 50% of their healthcare team privately, or just one person privately, say a CDE privately, and the rest of them, that endo, they might see through the public system. Just there's so many ways to do it. So just, I guess experiment, shop around, don't settle for something that you're not happy with, because I feel like I don't think a cure is coming in the next 5 years. So I feel like we're stuck with diabetes for a while. So, find a team that suits you. Find your tribe.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lauren, and sharing your incredible story.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to Life on the Level. If you found Lauren's story inspiring, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Head to the NDSS peer support page for online and face-to-face groups. You can find it on the website link peersupport.ndss.com.au.
We'll see you next time. Until then, keep living life on the level.
As we wrap up another episode of Life on the Level, we want to thank you for being part of the supportive community. Your stories, questions, and just being here fuel our mission to offer meaningful support and education to people living with diabetes. Keep the conversation going, stay connected, and remember, together, we're stronger. Don't forget to follow the show to hear more wherever you listen to your podcasts.
This podcast is brought to you by Diabetes Australia. We are leading the fight against Australia's biggest health crisis, working towards a future where diabetes can do no harm.
Diabetes Australia acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional owners and custodians of this country. We pay the utmost respect to them, their cultures, and to their elders, past and present. We extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. Diabetes Australia is committed to improving health outcomes for all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people affected by diabetes and those at risk.
All experiences and opinions described in this podcast are of those of each individual guest. Your experience and management may be different.